several months working on developing an IDP program, and now the focus for FY20 is to work with the departments, to work with their employees to establish the IDP. So in January 1st, 2021, our goal should be 100%. The second strategic objective that we have is 3B3, develop a succession planning program. I came before you 16 months ago and shared with you that this was a program that we worked with the leadership team and implemented and got into place well over a year ago. So our expected outcome in regards to succession plans was to prepare employees for potential future positions here at the city to give them growth and development opportunities. The activities that have occurred to support that expected outcome is we've identified key critical positions here at the city, both at leadership and operational levels, as well as potential employees to prepare them for the consideration of those future positions. The goal would be to have a succession plan established for each of those individuals. That also helps us identify internal opportunity as well as external recruitment efforts that we would be facing to be proactive about rather than reactionary. Our key performance indicator for this program would be that 100% of the employees are ready at the end of the designated time frame established through their succession plan. So if you look at the current metric that we have in place today, we have 5 succession plans where employees have been identified as immediately ready for a potential growth opportunity. We have 7 that will be ready within a year, 9 that will be ready within 2 years, and then 18 that will be ready within 3 years. And that is the full term of a succession plan. And then finally, we have our strategic objective 3B4, which is the development of an employee engagement program. So our expected outcome here would be for the city to have an established, documented employee engagement program. The activities that we've been working on to date were to identify the components of that program, which we've done, and we are currently working on the development of the new components that were approved. Our goal was to develop those identified program components. And then our key performance indicator for this will be that 100% of the program components have been implemented in the city. So currently today we have 66.7% of those components identified, documented, and implemented as the city's employee engagement program. So we still have a little bit more work to do, and we're currently working on them. So you'll notice that a lot of our key performance indicators are program-based, and that's phase 1 of our efforts in human resources because it's about developing the programs and getting the programs implemented. The second phase of this will be then to assess effectiveness and establish KPIs around that. I stand for questions.
Council, any questions?
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Lowell Roberts.
Madam Mayor, Crystal, nicely done.
Thank you.
First of all, very impressed with the progress that you and your team do, especially with so few of you, as I have mentioned before. Love IDPs. I think that that's a great route to go. I think that is a crazy big goal to have them done in a year. But when you have, after that's done, and when you have new employees, what's your estimated time frame to have them done for new employees?
After the first year of their employment, once they've completed their introductory period of employment, which for a general employee is within 6 months, fire and police, it's 1 year, and then implementing following that, and then monitoring and tracking it through completion.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Burnt.
Crystal, thank you so much for your presentation. It's been an honor to be your liaison for the past year, and it's I just appreciate all you do in your department. You guys are fantastic, so I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor for us to have you as our liaison as well. And we're looking forward to the changes that are occurring. I understand we'll have a new liaison and we'll work with them as well, but you've been fantastic to work with, and the team that I represent today appreciates the support that you've given us over the last year.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Crystal, and thank you to your team.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is under our Community Development Department.
Good fresh.
Love the bow tie, Cameron.
It loves you guys. Mayor, members of council, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Just before I begin, I just wanted to say thank you to many of you that will be departing, and just really appreciate the support to our department over this past year and the year before as well. Just the incredible support that we feel. It's commendable, and we appreciate it very much. So as I begin this presentation, I wanted to start kind of with our vision and kind of the basis for what we do in our department. And also just to mention, a lot of what we've crafted these KPIs off of is really somewhat already in place, but some of it is new to us, as you know, with new processes, new employees, new divisions, new software. And so much of this is still somewhat in incubation. And so some of this we have data for, some of it we don't, and we're trying to get and collect. But we're trying to keep this all based on and focused on our strategic plan objectives. So with that, we'll just start with permitting. We have three KPIs here. One is that we, basically do same day for a lot of our permits that are basically over the counter, is what we call them. And our premier benchmark there is that that's the case, 90% of the time, that we can take in a signed permit and turn that around same day. Residential permits, we have two business days, and then commercial permits is 5 business days. Of course, we've also included in each of these a premier benchmark. That's really where we want to go, where we want to be, and of course, we're going to try to build our department around that, improve processes and efficiency, potentially come to you guys for support in obtaining those. But that really is our basis for doing all of these. And so, just to give you a little bit of a taste of the data that we do have for some of these, you'll note here with this is our permit numbers, all total. And you'll see that, yes, residential and commercial are a big part of it, but what you'll see is the vast majority of our permits are really just the other stuff, patios, fences, signs, things like that. There's just a lot of flow in that permit volume. And so, again, this has been great for us just to start to track these things, to really understand what is our focus, what is taking our time, what needs to be our focus. Permit turnaround times. So you can see here we're pretty much there on the residential permits, and the commercial permits are taking a little bit longer. I think we got 2 months of data here, but it is something that we want to be very cognizant of. Are we getting closer to the turnaround times that we want? And it is important to note here too that permits doesn't necessarily mean plan review. It's just, are we intaking that application and then getting it to where it needs to go on a permit tech level, if that makes sense. We'll talk more about land development, building, and planning as we go as well. So hopefully that clarifies that a little bit for you. So moving on to land development. So final plat, signature review within 5 days, commercial building within 2, plan review within 2, and then the QLPE. As you know, that's something that we outsource. So we have that basically written into contract that will be turned around within 5 business days. And then our surety process, that's somewhat variable given different projects and what have you. So we're still working on that KPI itself. So with that, some of these, as you can see, are without a premier benchmark. We look to develop those. As many of you know, we have a new land development supervisor, Amanda McNutt, and that is something that we'll be working together with Amanda on to get her team on a track to whatever that premier benchmark we feel should be. So some of the data. So what you can see here from land development is, the new records and the projects approved for construction. And then you can also see the average day that it takes for these things to be turned around. Again, you're seeing some ebb and flow with month to month. But I do think, some of that seasonality, some of that's, we did have, for example, days off in November, things like that. So we're still just learning what this data means and how it impacts our performance in our department. Moving on to building. So in the plan review world, we want to make sure that, all commercial plan review is occurring within 20 business days. And as you know, some of this is outsourced in the commercial plan review piece. And so that is by contract, and you'll see here in the data that we are adhering to that. Of course, our premier benchmark is to cut that in half. We'd love to have those quicker. Of course, that means being able to hire that employee, which we haven't been able to do yet. So that is something that we do have a focus on. So you also see here that we've created kind of a tiering system for commercial, because as you know, not every commercial development is created equal. It could be as small as a TI, it could be a multi-story still construction building. So we're trying to be realistic with that and be a little bit, drill down into that a little bit more. Residential plan reviews there as well. I will mention there on the we do still outsource some of that, and that's largely because of application flow. So we do have two internal residential plan reviewers, Rachel and Keegan, but we still, if there's a lot of applications come in, we do outsource some of that if it exceeds our capacity. And then, and then plan modifications. So if there's something that comes back that needs to be modified to a plan, we try to turn those around within 3 business days. Our ideal would be that we'd be able to turn those over the counter. And so we'd love to get into a position to do that as well. So some of the data you can kind of see here, structural, mechanical, that's a lot of what we're seeing on the residential side, especially in-house. So we're pretty consistent with what we're able to turn around as far as the number of plan reviews. And so that is something that we're excited about. As you know, we do have a mechanical plans examiner as well. You can kind of see there that, that capacity is pretty consistent, at least, again, over the two months of data. Now our outsourced, so again, this you can see with each of the headings there, we still definitely operate under a hybrid model. So we are outsourcing quite a few, at least in November, of our residential structural reviews, quite a glut there. And then you can also see where the other reviews are coming in pretty consistently. One thing I did want to just throw out there too is just the cost of that outsource. So you can see for the two months there, what that cost was to us to outsource that, and then basically what the total would be there for the year. And you could project off this. I don't know if that's fair with 2 months worth of data, but safe to say there is a cost to that outsourcing. Moving on to the inspection team, obviously with everybody and the progress that everybody's making, but this is a great example of some of the stuff we're really excited about. You can see here there's electrical, mechanical, and then building, and then the inspection requests will be responded to and completed within a maximum of 30 business days. So we're pretty well on pace to this. You'll note that some of the building we do outsource some of that still, just because, again, that's where the bulk of our inspections come. And we do have a contract in place to help us with that excess. So this just gives you a taste of some of those inspections that are incurring. Of course, you can see from the total, in October we had just over 3,500, and then in November it dropped quite a bit there with the seasonality and the holidays and things like that. But again, really like to see the capacity of inspections that we are able to handle in-house. It's amazing how quickly we've ramped up and to what quality we've been able to do that. Here's just the daily in-house inspection averages, so you can kind of get a taste for, again, pretty consistent on what we're able to turn around on a daily basis. But I think it is important to note that those are pretty high numbers. So a lot of inspection, a lot of building going on right now. When we look to our contractors, so great contract help. We have Geotech, Dennis Holte and his group, and then Keller and Jackson that help us with these. Just really, it's good to have those flex points when we do have a lot of inspection coming in, to be able to turn to those reliable sources to help us through a lot of that. But again, comes at a cost, but we feel like we're getting data. We're starting to understand what those ebbs and flows are, and we can be better at handling that. And then again, just a cost estimate there for you guys to kind of take a look at. The planning division. So really, we have, as you know, hearing level applications. We'd love to say that we can turn these, between 2 to 4 hearing level applications per month, per planner. That's, we have a premier expectation there of 145 days to turn those around. I would just say, I think it's safe to say we're under a staffing need right now. We do have a new associate planner, Joe, that just joined us, really coming along well, but we still have that open position that we do need to fill and hope to do so soon. And then just to give you guys some hearing level application data for the 2 months. And it's important to note here that it's not just application in, application out. I mean, there is, it takes time to get them in, reviewed. So it may not be just, we received them in October, and then we were able to turn them in November. So it's a little bit, it is what it is, but we're trying to start to understand that a little bit more too. So the administrative level applications as well. So we have 2 tiers here. We have the CCC and then multifamily. A little bit different timelines there. Obviously, we want to try to complete all of these within a good time frame from our premier. And so let's get to some of that data with you guys. And again, it's not an application out, but this is a little bit less lumpy because this is stuff that we can do at a staff level. So we're hoping to see some more, relative consistency here. But again, I think the important thing to note is just the volume with the amount of staff we have. It is important to note, too, that we are starting to see a lot more complex plans come through the door. So, when you see a number, that is a unit, but it also can indicate a vast variety of application there. And then just average days to review. I think, again, just 2 months of data. I think the one thing that is noteworthy is the trend is going up. So I don't like that. And I think that just, again, reflects a number of things that we're all aware of. And then finally, just turn to our kind of newly hired Tori Cleary, and our Economic Development Division. So we got some exciting KPIs here that I think some of them are going to be less frequent. In other words, like, for example, if it's, private expansion investment, if it's, some of these things will be more on an annual basis. For example, the assessed commercial valuation, that's something that I believe Todd gets from the county assessor. But those are things that we want to be tracking and reporting as well to see, as an indicator, how are we doing economically. So there's just a number of those that we'll be reporting on. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have. And I would say, Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to put these together. It's been a good process for our department to understand what we care about and hopefully what is meaningful to you all and our community. So
Thank you. This is great. Council, any questions?
Madam Mayor,
Ms. Mylum?
thank you, Mr. Rogers.
shoe toss.
Great report. You have a lot. I mean, you have a lot going on in your department, and this year has been
Yes,
probably
ma'am.
crazier than you could ever imagined. So, especially taking that in consideration. I do have a couple questions, though. Mainly, on your building services, you got premier benchmark is quantity versus quality,
Yes.
and I don't like that. So, could you
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit, please?
Yeah, you bet. So I appreciate that question. So what we're really alluding to is we do like quality. We want to make sure that we're delivering a quality inspection that really reflects the long-term viability of what we're inspecting. We want these things to last. We want our community to be secure. But we do run into, okay, what if we have a capacity issue? What do we don't want to. There is kind of that double-edged sword. Do we try to move on to the next inspection in an effort to maintain our KPI, if that makes sense? So with that said, that's where we want to be vigilant, is to say if our inspections are getting too high, what resources do we need? Do we need to be outsourcing that? So quality is the benchmark. So that's the purpose for the comment there.
Madam Mayor, yeah, thank you. It should be quality.
Yes.
And also, I think a really important thing to be in constant communication with the future council is if you're continually so busy that you're having to outsource in order to maintain quality, then that's when you need to add people, because the outsourcing is so much more expensive from the looks of it. So
I would agree.
You get a year's worth, and it takes in 2 months you get a year's worth of salary. So, anyway, I really keep an eye on that and try not to outsource too much, but if it's a continual thing. And the other thing that I think I would like to see, and honestly, I think for all departments, is a customer satisfaction KPI. I think it's critical. I know that some of the departments had put that in. Your department especially, because you are dealing with so many different developers, and that will help you, I think, kind of figure out if the KPIs, the rest of them are working. If the people are, everybody's not always going to be happy, especially when they're in a hurry. So, there has to be some leeway, but I think that could be really helpful as well.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Mylum, I agree. I think that is a good point. That is something that we've kind of discussed. Is that something that we could maybe do as a survey that comes up post submittal or something like that, or but finding a way to do that, I think, is important. So it's note well taken.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your work.
I think it's important to note that as they establish what their goals are and they start seeing how things are performing, we're in a high market right now. It's not always going to be that way. So it's trying to establish what those norms are and at what point is outsourcing, but certainly don't want to outsource on a constant basis where it does make sense to have that extra person. And that's what these benchmarks and these numbers are going to really tell you is when is the tipping point to hiring, and when does it make sense that to fill the gap because it's on the upswing and it's an abnormality instead of a constant. Yeah. Any other questions for Cameron?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Barton?
just one, maybe two. Cameron, of all of the Ks, the key part, were any of these derived from outside sources, out of the house versus in-house, as to what is important to track? Meaning outside development community, for example, saying, these are some of our concerns when we work with the city of Meridian, and you should probably track this type of conduct and see if you can help remedy that particular concern, using time for an inspection as an example. But were any of these derived from out of the house?
Yeah, appreciate that. Madam Mayor, Councilman Warden, that's a good question. The answer is yes. So we did take particular, for example, the inspection timing. That is something that we've taken a hard look at, best practice, the way other jurisdictions do it, but then also, well, how do we want to do it from a Meridian perspective? What does our building community, want and expect? And really, do we as an internal team really want to push toward as well? And again, balancing quality and quantity, and being able to hopefully deliver both. So the answer is yes. This is a multivariate amalgam of a lot of inputs to put these together. And the mayor, gosh, she had thankfully made this a priority and really pushed this with me and with our department. And so this has been a discussion that's been a long time in the making. So really from the inception, we've been trying to hone these, refine these to make them what they really need to be. That being said, it's by no means perfect. We'd love more feedback if people have other indicators or ways to refine these to maybe what need to be. We're open to that too. So,
Madam Mayor, I appreciate that. The question comes from trying to use some of these to also resolve concerns that might happen with the way that business is done, using the inspection time frame as an example. So if there was feedback from outside of the city, our customers, that reference a particular concern, that's captured and maybe take an opportunity to try and come up with a KPI unique to track, making sure that concern is addressed and this doesn't get worse. An example that I thought of as you went through this was the planning division, the hearing level application time. We've heard on occasion, there's a variety of reasons for it, but is it frustrating or difficult for staff reports to come out, the day before a hearing, for example? And there may be a variety of reasons as to why that happens, from staffing to outside influences. But I thought of that as being an example of, is there a KPI that says we're going to have our process designed in a way and our metrics that allow our staff reports to be issued, just spitballing examples, right?
Yeah, sure.
4 business days before a hearing, for example. Something like that says we've heard feedback from citizens and perhaps development community that says this is a concern. Can we articulate a K, right? Some performance indicator that we can then track as a means of resolving that concern. There's probably others. That's kind of why I was asking about if outside sources have helped drive what you're determining to be K.
Yeah.
E.
I appreciate that. Madam Mayor, Councilman Borton, so really in order to be concise, quite frankly, we tried to limit what would be the highest level, most pertinent information. But that's a great example of something that we do track, and we do have a internal metric, if you will, for that very thing. So turnaround times of staff reports to the clerk before a hearing. But if we needed to make that public, or make it public, that's the wrong, make that a higher priority or a higher level that we actually report on more globally than just our internal management, that is something that we could consider. And certainly we would be open to that if that is something that matters to you all or to our customers, for sure.
I think that this really sets something in print. And it's for the incoming council and mayor to also take a look at. And now that you have something like this, bring it back to your customer base and seek feedback. This
Continual.
is the kind of information that is going to give council an opportunity to know appropriate staffing levels, and you can set expectations to your customers if you have, like we've been experiencing in planning, you have openings, it's challenging you. You maybe do have the backup plan with the consultant or you don't, but you can then have the conversations with those that come in the door to manage temporary expectations versus then having a conversation with council on resources and when something might need to be added in the middle of a budget cycle. And it gives you great information to have a fruitful discussion on.
Absolutely. Yeah, a basis for decision-making and, yes.
Yeah, but now it is going back and truthing it with the electeds, give them an opportunity to kind of stew on this and see if they have additional feedback. And I would encourage you to get it directly to Cameron. And reach out to your customer base, do a follow-up maybe in a month with council on what kind of feedback that you've had.
That's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that we will absolutely do that. And please, by no means is this meant to be, nor should it be final. I think it needs to ebb and flow.
It's a great springboard.
Right.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
just gave something that I think we've been asking for some time. And now they can digest it and give you critical feedback.
Absolutely.
And kudos. Kudos are welcome.
A lot of work going on in the
A
department.
lot of work. This represents a lot of work, and it's very impressive. I greatly appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam.
Anything further from council? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron, and thank you to your team. Okay, item 5C is also under our Community Development Department, and we have Caleb here.
So, Madam Mayor, members of the council, this should go pretty quick. Maybe just a moment before I dive into this, since we're talking about kudos and thank you. I do appreciate the support you've shown our department and over the years, and thank you for your service. It seems like you're constantly showing us that love, and for those of you that are leaving us, it's been my pleasure and honor working for you and with you over the past years, and I just wish you well. And for those that are continuing on, I look forward to that too. But thank you again, and I'm sure you won't be strangers. I know that. So. I'm also on thank yous. Last time we talked about this, Cameron and Keith I was not feeling well, and I was unable to attend, so they pitched in and talked about the shared scooters. I'll pick that up from here, and off we go. We did issue the RFP on the 13th of December. I sent it to 6 potential vendors that I knew of. I've had conversations since with a couple of them. Keith and I were at a pre-proposal conference on the 27th of last month. No one showed up in person. Those proposals for shared vehicle service are due this Friday by 4 p.m. What I thought we could maybe use a little bit of time, and it should just take a minute or two, is last time we did this, we had 7 raters. I have Mike Barton from Parks who has agreed to continue on. I'm willing to continue on. We had a police representative, Scott Coliani. I haven't talked to Scott, but it makes some sense to have a police rep on that as well. I talked to the Transportation Commission yesterday, and they were willing. In fact, I got more volunteers than I thought I would. I got 3 that potentially, they didn't all say they have to serve, but up to 3 on our Transportation Commission that would be willing to rate proposals as well. So I didn't know if you had any names you wanted to make sure were on here. We had a downtown rep in Josh Everts last time. Makes some sense to have a downtown business rep on that. We had Wahoo's Roaring Springs, also a destination, made some sense for maybe them to be involved if that's a place where people are going to be riding these scooters. And then we had a MIAC rep as well, Britton Davis. So I'd like to fill at least those 3 or 4 seats with others. So I don't know if you have names or organizations. I could reach out to the MDBA, see if they have somebody, but that's kind of what if you have any names or organizations you'd like me to reach out to as we look to score, rank these proposals, shoot in my direction. I do need to get this group together here in short order. We do need to have a scoring meeting the week of the 20th, because by the 24th, we have to have them scored and notify the potential vendor by the 27th. So not to put you on the spot, but if you have anybody or in mind that you think would be good to serve, I'm all ears.
Thank you, Caleb. Mr. Byrne?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe someone from Meridian Cycles. Folks at Meridian Cycles are good people and always willing to volunteer when we need them to, so I would reach out to those folks. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Palmer?
Madam Mayor, Caleb, maybe see if there's anybody from Brighton or BVA or that might be, because I work at 10 Mile Crossing and there are a massive pile of millennials that work in those complex and no doubt in the other ones that they're developing. So I'm anxious to know their opinion as to the scooters in their developments, because really would like to have them at 10 Mile Crossing. But all the stuff that they're building, their opinion might be important.
Madam Mayor?
Ms. Mylum?
I have no influence on downtown or any of the destination areas, but if you can't find enough people, I do have experience with scoring. I would be happy to help you out.
Nice, Genesis.
Here we go.
Get you stepping up already.
Don't look at me.
And then we'll bring that back. We'll be in touch here probably about, in that same general time frame with an update on proposals, and we'll go from there then.
Okay. Anything further by council?
No. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Caleb.
Thanks, Caleb.
Okay, 5D is under our police department. Hi, Chief.
How are you?
Good.
Madam Mayor, Council, just a quick update on the hands-free ordinance. We will keep this brief and then just answer any questions that you have. Since the ordinance has been passed, we ran approximately a 60-day educational period. During that time, we had the 4 public hearings, social media blitz. Major media has covered both before, during it, and after on the hands-free ordinance, and continue to do stories on it. We have billboards out there, the theater PSA, our own personal PSA, utility billing, podcasts, and website information so far as our outreach. During that 60-day period, we wrote 166 warnings. And then as of January 1st, when we did another media blitz for enforcement, we have so far between January 1st and January 6th, we've written 13 warnings and 18 citations for a total of 31 violations. That is all I have for an update, and I'm just here to answer any particular questions that we have from council. We're getting some general chatter from people on questions and what it means, and we're responding to them, but it's really kind of a love-hate thing. We got about 75% of the people that love it and 25% that hate it, but those that hate it really can't justify why they hate it. So other than it's new.
Madam Mayor?
So
Chief, you might also talk about the signage, because I know that has been a question that's come up, and Stephanie gave some feedback on that, if you could share it, or I can.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council, there has been some discussion about signage. Our original thoughts was that we would have signage up. We've ran into some roadblocks with both ACHD and with ITD. Really, I think what they're wanting to do is kind of wait and see what the rest of the cities and the county are doing. They don't want to put signs up and then have to pull the signs up or move the signs. So we're getting a little bit of, I don't want to say pushback, we're getting a little bit of delay and from the top admins. And so we're still coordinating that. One of the things that, in fact, I think Robert and I just discussed today is that there's a lot of laws out there that there's not signs posted. So the fact that you're saying that I didn't know it because there wasn't a sign up, that might be something that you're just going to have to use for an argument in court. We need to do our best to get that information out to our citizens, and then we need to allow our officers to use the common sense and the discretion that they have when they're issuing citations that we do all the time. If someone's on the interstate passing through, the only person that can enforce this law is a Meridian officers, and we don't work the interstate, so you have nothing to worry about. If you pull off the interstate to gas up or eat in a restaurant and you got an out-of-state plate and you get pulled over, my guess is you're probably going to get a warning and you're going to move on. Got to use a little bit of common sense. I can tell you that we're still working on the signs, but I don't have a deadline as far as when they'll be out there.
Yeah, and I think it was important to note that Stephanie has done an outstanding job in getting all of the coordination of the communication. I mean, the radio, that's about all I listen to, is filled with conversations about it. So people are talking about it. In regards to the roads, there's a real cost to putting those signs up, and that is why the delay. They don't want to put it up and then have to move them again. And so just the signs have been designed, they've been ordered, and the final step is with the road agencies. And I just want to make sure to give great kudos to Stephanie and Shandy and everyone who's been working on this, because they've done a great, fantastic job.
Madam Mayor, I'll pass that on, and I concur. It's just been fantastic. And I had one gentleman this week that claimed that he didn't know about it. And he must live in a cave because that's all they're talking about. And it really surprised me. And so we're getting the word out. It takes time. We do see it making a difference. We're seeing it less, but we're also seeing there's still violations out there. And some people are saying, well, you need to educate more. And I said, no, those people are just making a choice. And that's okay. That's why we needed to have a high enough penalty. And it needs to hurt sometimes to do the right thing.
Thank you.
So it's making a difference.
Mr. Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was a couple days ago, I was driving southbound on 10 Mile from Pine to the freeway, and a gentleman was on his cell phone the entire time. And I was riding next to him, just waiting for him to look up and acknowledge, give me a little wave. Just buried in his cell phone, driving a really nice Mercedes-Benz, suit and tie. And finally he looks up and I pointed to my cell phone and he gave me the one-finger salute. And so I was thinking right then that it just reaffirmed the importance of this. He never looked up. It's amazing he was even going straight. I have no idea how he was driving. But I thought to myself.
Real vision.
I know.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Byrne, people don't realize how focused they are on their phones. They think that they're doing okay when they're not. That's a perfect example.
How far is it from Pine Street to the freeway?
Half a mile,
There you go. So like for a full half mile.
2,500 feet.
And he was like,
A mile.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, do the math.
Mr. Palmer?
have you seen that new Mayhem commercial
what?
where he's saying I'm a tailgater tailgating, whatever, but the guy in front of him is so distracted by the guy tailgating and behind him that he doesn't realize there's a tailgate in front of him. I'm a little worried about your concerns over there, Mr. Byrne, as you're making you watch every moment, make sure he doesn't look up at the street. Were you looking at the street at all?
Of course I was.
Oh, he was a passenger.
My goodness.
Were you the guy swerving on 10 Mile?
I thought he was looking in the mirror at himself when he was telling the story
Madam Mayor,
originally.
I'll
but-
talk, I got in trouble last time I was having to, I will say this, that I was a law-abiding citizen that day, 100%. I was doing exactly what I needed to do.
That's why I noticed someone else that wasn't.
Exactly.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes.
Mr. Paul.
A for effort.
Thank you.
Any other questions,
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Borden?
Chief, we talked earlier, well, two things. One, I think you're doing a fantastic job of outreach and using our media partners to help communicate the message of education. It has been framed properly. The purpose is well stated by how that's being communicated and handled with the warnings. There was talk during its consideration about tracking data and whether it's a warning or a citation, but using it as an opportunity to compile statistics internally, whether it's just age, gender, type of car, who's being stopped, and maybe what their explanation is. Do they see you or not, or did they? I'm not sure what those 2 or 3 type metrics might be that could be valuable not only to us to understand the impact we've had, but also to neighboring communities who they just might not know who in their community could be impacted by it, and we'd be able to help share our statistics that might assist them in making a decision to jump off and move themselves.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Borton, most of that data is already tracked. As far as the reason why they were on the phone, I don't believe that's being tracked. I did reach out to our traffic supervisor and asked him how things are going and what sort of explanations they're getting from people, even to get a rough idea. He is currently in Spokane at training this week, and so he'll get me that information. But most of the metrics are being tracked. The reasons for it is documented. It's just not as easily tracked, and so we'll work on that.
Madam Mayor, and the only reason I ask is, as you know, as a community, before we had this, if you thought, boy, what would be the data you would like to see from another city that would help pinpoint and assist a decision maker in adopting an ordinance like this? Whether it's the volume of citations or volume of violators, for example, the most simple one. That might be the type of data that would be helpful for us to track.
Madam Mayor, Council Borton, and I agree. One of the things that if you were to ask a bunch of people as far as who's out there doing that, and you might stereotype the young kids, and when you look at the ages that people that are violating this, it's not the kids. So that would be a perfect example to show that what you think and what actually is happening is completely 2 different things. And we do have that data.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, and thank you for your leadership on this and your team's, all of their efforts in educating our citizens and trying to keep our roads safe. It's important.
We're not done. Half my day was on a state law today. So we're working on a couple different things here as well. So the next couple items, Lieutenant Leslie is going to do, and then Kendall will do the last item for the police department.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, I will move to item 5E and turn this over to Jamie. Lieutenant Leslie.
That's okay, Madam Mayor, City Council. So this is, first one's a budget amendment, a net zero one for $21,000. This one is a yearly one we get from ITD, and it's funding overtime patrols for extra DUI enforcement, seatbelt enforcement, aggressive driving, speeding, those type of activities that aren't. So we're bringing officers on an overtime basis that's reimbursed by the ITD to take care of those activities.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Palmer.
I move we approve the budget amendment for $21,000 for the Office of Highway Safety Mobilization Grant.
Have a motion and a second to approve item 5E. Mr. Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Mylum?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Palmer?
Aye.
Councilmember Little Roberts?
Aye.
Councilmember Borton?
Aye.
All ayes. Item 5F.
Madam Mayor, City Council, this is another net zero budget amendment for $15,000. This is from the Office of Highway Safety, and it's specifically for the instruction we put on for our Live at 25 classes. And we currently have 7 instructors that put on those classes throughout the year. And those are usually for teen drivers under the age of 25 with a single violation to be able to get some of those points reduced on their driver's license.
And Lieutenant, I know that for a number of years, Meridian was the top in the state in providing this kind of outreach and education. Is that still?
Madam Mayor, that's still true. I don't have the exact numbers on how many hours and how many students we're running through a year, but I'm pretty confident we are leading the state in that as well.
Yeah, and this is also one of those programs that help with your insurance, right?
It does. It helps reduce the liability on the insurance because of the reduction in the ticket points.
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
It is nice.
Council, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Palmer?
I move we approve the budget amendment for $15,000 for the Alive at 25 grant.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 5F. Mr. Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Mylum? Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Palmer?
Aye.
Councilmember Little Roberts? Councilmember Borton?
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Hi, Kendall.
Hello. Madam Mayor and members of the council, I just want to reiterate the words of appreciation to those of you that are moving on to new ventures. I appreciated working with each of you in different capacities, and I look forward to the new leadership that will step up. I'm here to request spending authority for a $1,000 grant that was awarded to MADC from the Idaho State Liquor Division. That funding will help us sustain prevention strategies that we've continued through the years, specifically 3 all-school Red Ribbon Week. What is it called when everybody gets together?
Rally?
Rally, no?
Yes. Sorry, word blank there. Natalie Marty will come and tell her story, so it's fees to cover her speaker fees for 3 different schools. And then also purchasing drug-free school zone signs that are placed at the different schools, especially as we grow and have more schools. And then they have been really diligent. West Ada has been very diligent about replacing signs that are no longer legible or have faded. So this is a neutral budget amendment, and I'm requesting the spending authority for the $1,000.
Okay, thank you, Kendall, and thank you for everything you do in this regard. Council, any questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you, Kendall.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Palmer?
I move we approve the budget amendment for $1,000 from the Idaho Department of Liquor grant, for the Idaho Department of Liquor grant.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve our last item on our agenda. Mr. Clerk, will you please call roll?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Councilmember Mylum?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Palmer?
Aye.
Councilmember Little Roberts?
Aye.
Councilmember Borton?
Aye.
And I did want to note for the record, we did not put through budget amendments on the police department to make 3 motions from Mr. Palmer be the last motions he makes in his tenure. Just wanted that noted for the record.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Palmer.
Mr. Ty, I think like my last 12 or so motions have all passed. I'm on like a hot streak.
You're on a roll, for sure. Yes. Okay, council, we have nothing further on our agenda. I would entertain a motion to close our work session.
Madam Mayor,
Ms. Mylum.
I move we adjourn our work session.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn our work session. All those in favor say aye.
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 All ayes.